Dear Mr. Lieberman, I don't know. I don't even know if you're still in the Senate. I'm referring to you as a human being regarding recorded, effective, every single group still in collusion with that, which makes sense of that at the ground level with forsaken integrity. Everyone had to work in value nature systems as identities of jobs, of titles that can't defend that and do anything but value originally and still. Entrenched here since before our founders' births, roles as styles of liars in relationship to nature as what causes negative value nature progressions. Self value, not by accident. In layers, all motivations, natures, needs, interests. Hurt victims. So a truth is that no one has the right to kill anyone, let alone a whole bunch of people at once. Another truth is that that we were doing that to people across the ocean because that's how we had to force in, or otherwise there was no hope ever. They had to hide their roles with our founding, our fathers. Whether people care about that or not, debate too. That word was shared, invested to sequence racketeering treatments of it, and so with precedents, formal and informal and collusion, because all formal original needed to pretend to perceive things and need to pretend to record things. All evidence reception and perception bodies simultaneously engineered as misprision, standing only capable of being in relationship to value progressions, the value progression by identity's nature, the one that has the identity of relationship to all things at once. Science reveals has all identities of value only to it, and as it an increasing nature of volume. So it is most probable that the ancients revealed that even the identities of sounds of the 26 letters of the English language, Mr. Lieberman, they revealed English. They revealed that they have an identity of relationships to themselves. And just like an individual body, individual person, this individual language, English, they revealed that it has an, other languages that have an identity of relationship to themselves that is grouped and that is all together. Value, positive or negative, which is the value of value because it's in demonstration of the identity of relationship to and as this nature of volume that has us all longing water, has us all longing a course now, though, however, through from a tactically denatured relationship to nature. Since ancient times, since before modern religions, thank God for their multi-front counters to what is still maintenance to all formal qualities of fact, treatment, nature, styles of and as liars, pretending other, how inherent to it individually, every single person. This is already in layers, motivated to and as all identities of the ground relationships. This is what they made everyone blame on other things, others themselves, not to even the Native Americans, because they had to react as fact treatment nature and not understanding motivations, which are not, these are other motivations in natures of interest from one organized crime method that everyone is in collusion with. And then, for example, deeper, then sustained, already invested, like you, those are tools. The word debate, the word diacritic. we're leaving out what is simultaneous nature, what is critical, what is forever nature's course, which is even bigger than infinity because it's the one creating more and more forever nature. Only the extent of it is debatable, but it's formally in collusion with informal, recorded in how in collusion with also private and also overt criminal enterprises, recorded originally and still all juxtaposed to the same organized crime method. Here, every modern nation, effectively, having missed how this was, is deeper before the depth, while being the value of the depths. Because that's where they put the tactically denatured relationship to nature that they knew would cause negative value nature progressions. See, we're only one species though, so it was allowed to progress for so long. But boxing is strong, but geez, God, give us rest. That's our best. So lethal IDs, for space nature. See, we have the debatable forced with the sequence shift racketeering uses of each identity of value treatment through organized crime that came since before the quality of fact treatment nature that was and can only be evolved from that already revealed that which really revealed this ancient republic for which we stand. So also they have I have to like George Washington and his roles leaving having left overt slavery in this town, how that was not in Hartford too. Institute of Living Institute reportedly instituted in 1822 with slavery in Hartford, real or made up. They're involved with racketeering with education that is also on off campuses in layers through what originally and still really brought us into World War One. So see, we have knowledge being used to block correlation because sequence shifts and justifications of them and values of them, self-valued, is recorded, not only recorded, it's how recorded, how motivated. Through this method that left each age of fact-keeping nature, where and as and how it counts, not even fathomed, protected, and how. In other words, where it counts. We have correlation nature with sequence true, inherent, active, and progressive nature of volume. Romulus is about same thing modern religions are about regarding that part with since before them internation sciences were criminally foreign influenced. So now they need to keep obfuscated the simultaneous value of understanding simultaneously how the nature of identity's nature of volume wants us and needs us to understand if we want to be more and more positive that and how and why the predicate act is valued simultaneously while the predicate is valued to English. So the predicate act is going to be tied to a criminal insidiousness nature, especially if it's legalized, especially indistinctly and non-distinctly, especially non-distinctly. This is also the organized crime method that recorded effectively knew this, that Native Americans would have to blame the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures like criminal insidiousness natures, wrongdoing, male crime, wild crime, not just extortion, not just murders and things in relationship to the criminal enterprises and the organized crime. In other words, counters to them that were in collusion originally and still. And so that left out was built to invested with what knowledge and the tree of knowledge of and the tree of life, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and the tree of life. For example, in the part in the beginning of the Old Testament, this is all you have to understand is this part right here where the science is. See, the sciences share an identity. For all we have to understand is the first part of the Quran. That is not about the, it's about the organized crime, the criminal insidiousness natures, the wrongdoers, the wrongdoing with fact treatment nature. Forced nations grouped, a whole bunch of nations. Now it's time in positions. Tall positions of platforms in relationship to scientific fact treatment nature quality treatments. Against in some ancient times, relationship to nature's actual fulfilling volume. See, yin yang cannot be separated and it only fills. And what separates it is a demonstration of the only word. When you separate, if you take a transverse section of, this is how the ancients would teach. If you take a transverse section of yin yang, you have alpha value. If you if you take a trans and wherever there is an alpha value, you can't separate that. So with that is going to come inherent value, Romulus and Remus. With that is going to come Adam and Eve, progressive volumes value, positive or negative, in relationship to this identity of value progression bigger than as what generated from within itself all space, nature, physical bonded. Position to make more forever nature. Whereas in how we are, quality of diffusion. So the identity of space and the identity of forever and their identity together simultaneously, that is making more and more forever nature, but is also making more and more of our identity simultaneously, which is the only way this nature of integrity can make of substance can make more of itself. So we're like positive or negative memory to it, but with perfect memory. This is that and how and why we have the same, we can share memories to know that everything is in demonstration of this identity. We don't have to agree about its name. The see, we don't have the first, but the Quran warns against what this is in collusion with a whole bunch of nations with psychology. You can't, no one can, without tricks and valuing criminally foreign influence, everyone opinion nature's quality of fact, cheap nature styles. Defend, I forgot, without trade. We had answers for the evolution and for solutions to peace and means to come out of recorded. Also, zoning laws and pathology semi unsafe, not by accident. All controlled interactions involved with where exploits each age of fact treatment nature simultaneously, distinctly, sickly, originally and still, all having not fathomed that and how all could have been, even the most sophisticated, have been conformed to roles with the same organized crime method. It's because it's completely fact treatment nature, and because nature's identities grip on, not grip, no, body with, body of value, with what is the complete body of value onto and as the value of all things that is in increasing nature of volume. So just like the air and the water are natures of volume that interact, they have different properties, they reveal different things. See, these fruits of evolution are tools. What takes it away? Leaf of Hadid. See, that's the tools of the devil. Because now we have a tactical denatured relationship to nature. These words and this nature of evidence perception using what is true always and not denying any exceptions, not valuing them denied, having been denied. So, in other words, each modern religion has the identity of that through a value nature system. That to the defenses of those identity relationships to it, and the sensibilities, intersciences, because these are database relationships before they are sophistication. This is again organized crime method against each age of fact cheating nature that everyone missed. Everyone self-valued it because they knew how to do it. Because it just exploits the time of everyone. Everyone wants to have a life sustaining more and more and more positive revealed through negative. And this is logic's course. But see, now we have logic originally and still self-valued put through what breaks people to slavery. That's where we have to switch the colors. We could do this for, in other words, right now we have instant means to take people that are forsaken on a mass scale. And that was maintained as a tool to keep each position, especially leaders, distinctly and non-distinctly, especially the group branches grouped individually together, but still high predators that as where and as accounts with their roles with this fact treatment nature racketeering. All victims, but all victim predators only let realized rely upon the perfect world forsaken. Not allowed free speech. Not allowed to understand Marbury versus Madison. Not allowed to speak about that and how the stewards of the ground with religious relationships. These are through other motivations, like and these styles of liar. Oh, that's money. That's where we like that way because we're military. Or we like them because we're judicial. Or we like it because that we're police forms. These are all identities of the ground relationship, self-valuing, criminally foreign influence identity of the ground relationships to what will continue to demonstrate not only negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures like predicate acts, criminal insidiousness, wrongdoers, that type of positive self-value. Now, say we have a logic that's forced worse than identity racketeering, thefts, frauds, all that, torture, free speech, not prevent. So they invest everyone. They needed torture. That was set up with this because they use a whole bunch of nations at the same time who have police forms that deal with top counters to, you know, where and how, as and how each nation, modern nation, can't afford individually grouped and together. If they try to afford it, then they get spread out. And in other words, the, they want to put debatable to keep each position of quality of fact keeping nature contained distinctly. And that's what is made even the overtly sickly distinctly and sickly insidiously simultaneously, and how that was is motivated by all for a whole bunch of recorded juxtaposed motivated other motivations nature's needs interest. So for the whole for right through lifetimes we had people with never liberated, worse than forsaken, worse than tortured. They already knew that that was going to happen, so they put the racketeering insidiously and overtly, but insidiously. So then all for other motivations, how types of jobs with education rely on other experts, and that how that was is as a standing criminal seriousness nature can't legalize it because it was is exploited. That's really why there are the people shooting themselves. That's why how many people died in Hartford, Connecticut by shootings. Not because the gun. I mean, relationships to things like guns and legislation. The breaching organized crime method was sophistication before the congressional building was. And all we're just fighting to jump into a world already conformed to worse than negotiated with terrorism. Already extended, forced. That's where, in other words, it there that's where we have to make this industry. This is part of pantheism, which is science of the identity that is onto all things at once. Bach sings to campus dunce with stolen names. See, we have the identity of campus, them business. That's all right because that's all they were ever told. But that's the nature of child abuse, where everyone needs to have debatable out of sequence. In other words, with time treatments to always too fast, too slow, all theater only lets voice. So we never had a platform to that's all right, but not simultaneously never realizing that and offensively worse when people try to speak it, still identity racketeering. We still have identity racketeering courts. We still have that how that was already facilitated, propagated all the identities each of their child abused, how they're told to make convictions towards premises treatments inside their overall convictions. We have the nature of volume exploited, so they can't have the how. In other words, it's how the identity of the main verb changes. Identity natures and demonstration to us all ways of everything. The sciences share this identity, which is the nature of volume that interacts differently than air, than water and earth, as space. As space is value. Phil, it generated that. While it is the phenomena of the simultaneous nature conjunction to ourselves, which is conjunction to and as itself, which is the nature of volume that only fills. And it only values what enables it to fill more here, where the rest of nature has no criminal foreign influences, especially since semi-ancient times. So we have defenses of evidence receptions into sciences, like regarding the past. And that's regarding what any science is there, because public education, private, same time. In other words, the quality of education is maintained fake sides. In other words, sides to the theater and to uses of knowledge in relationship to evaluate nature positions and you know these legal guys are going to tell you how to word it because you know it's not a perfect world. Before that was a phenomenon, everyone victims roles, not knowing how to react, so after having to respond to people. That's why we have Central Connecticut State University. Everyone's victims, as told, doing, but they're being, you know, then they know they can't do that way, and they were exploiting that since before the people doing it were born. So we have relationships with training of that too, training of the press communications people, which is simultaneously involved with training of the press because these are the same campuses, but the campuses are used as identities used for this racketeering method that came from since before the identity of the ground relationship with their roles with that. Everyone missed the organized crime method that made even the Native Americans blame other things, others, and selves for the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures. So they knew that, in other words, ISIS is being used as a tool by a whole bunch of nations involved with psychology, with a whole bunch of natures of racketeering, already with Justice Department, the Pentagon, other nations' equivalents. uses of identity of the ground, uses of the sensibility of all of you guys. And then that's with the sequence shift racketeering is self-valued, for example, already long invested. Because then you guys fight about and that with styles that are already in collusion, with precedents that is already in collusion. Every modern nation is in collusion, not by accident. This is they force. This is the style. This is the this is the Jewish group. This type of Catholic. This type of Christianity. This is atheist group. This is the This is these are the type Islamic, and this is what is the piece together. That's in collusion with what is psycho. At the same time, only realized counters incapable victims educated through what is preventing correlation nature's identity. So with all the convictions attached to all the way they brought each age of fact nature simultaneously with the on campuses maintained already from off of it, already propagated in layers and roll all the roles as an identity where it's invisible but still discernible. More and more negative of value nature progression relationship to the identity of the ground's relationship to itself as value progression perfect as the nature we are feeling as whereas its own value nature system. Again, that modern nations, semi-ancient natures, were taken to value nature systems, tactically denatured, specifically to cause this identity of negative value nature progression to be self-maintained, self-value, all fit to roles of styles of liars, even where telling truths to themselves. So we have what is unfathomable. We have a poverty of the mind that can't counter how grouped nations are fighting to stay forced glorification of zoning laws of a pathology of means to things individually grouped in together and exploitation of that already. Again, then self-value. And then self-value further and further already blame the other things others themselves. So that appreciated the racketeering with the jails that they're also recorded involved sickly with their criminals and with their patients too, because these are people with racketeering with Harvard Hospital originally and still their campus. This is the same people enter campuses through time. And now see they're ducking behind what they were facilitated need to hide behind, which is this is also because we have each branch of government offensively hiding life progressions and hiding their actually recorded natures originally and still. See what what was entrenched in and as the value of only let realized exploitation, only let realized sophistication of unity, as like Germany, America. That was here and there. There was already a collusion by the organized crime racketeering, the archetypal organized crime method that came from since before modern religions. Jewish, juxtapose energy C. High, energy C is high, inherent high. Wait, juxtapose energy's wall, inherent C is high. See, distinctly and non-distinctly, this organized crime method against every modern nation hurts the nature of men and women. And by uses of self-valued and layers already propagated, worse, tactically denatured relationship to nature, used to mimic the identity of relationship that comes filtered through that as one perfect response. Negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures. So they knew that the Native Americans will only be able to counter the predicate acts upon them by blaming groups wrong and then defending those styles of fact cheaping nature. So they divided them from themselves, fact cheaping nature wise. So they built a whole bunch of natures as victims, as styles of fact cheaping nature, teaching. But when they get to the age they're going to teach them in this class, they're going to become aware of the phrase divide and conquer. So they fit them stuck. Criminally foreign influence, self-valued, delusions wrought and pretending other, which is all right if they weren't simultaneously valuing and getting away with it for racketeering. Even with Sub Rosa originally instilled, our obligations to have free speech demonstrate how that was being used for racketeering like magic tricks. Reading the statute still, leaving out the sequence racketeering trick. Former director of the FBI down. Whole bunch of natures of racketeering associated with these people with media police private retired and standing sources of them and their roles without Narcan and Farmington Avenue and the ones from my town that they involve with the branches, lie progression cover-ups, where they pretend to perceive things and they pretend things recorded into databases to Mendez police. Also on off New Britain Superior Court racketeering with them. Also uses of Facebook for this. See them and everyone says, "Oh, it's nothing, it's not." But this is a sustained. This is what keeps the problems is from is using each identity around location. This is databases racketeering that's tied to all the bad stuff that's going on. This is these are insidious things associated with each age of formal treatments of criminal justice. I'm not a doctor, but I could delineate the delusions through time and their criminal foreign influences recorded in their misprision and criminality uses of their lie progressions from those spots. Involved with this, with nations grouped. Originally, still, you can't defend that and teach about what motivated slavery, what Marbury versus Madison is really about. What justice must satisfy all appearances, real always, or is not real justice. So they have recidivism, pretending to be against that, using to hide how they have the overt criminal enterprises, private ones, undercover. Because if you try to take them, oh, I was just on all that in collusion. Each identity of the ground, forensics locations. The identity of the ground was already involved with different natures of racketeering, all juxtaposed with the one that took not just Native Americans, already had everyone, already had them long separated from what they originally possessed as an integrity of sciences, the Native Americans. This is most scientific process probable. See, but we have scientific consensus, delusions wrought and criminally foreign influence, still to pretend other, even to have Native Americans with sensibilities and fact cheaping nature styles, not realizing. So, forced and negotiated, because this is also a method that juxtaposes natures and roles of impositions, to say the least, racketeering acts and roles against people in sustained ways. And then uses of that by other people. So they stack names that maintaining a nature of unity as a nature of volume as criminal and seditious nature. So they like to say rats because then they can pretend they know you. when they know that what is actually recorded is the only they recorded themselves, pretending to perceive things with evidences they also pretend recorded faked into databases, into branch, individually crime act nature methods. Wethersfield police chief, his it recorded by other police from their forging, switching names, other police forms associated with them racketeering with the campuses through time, with people on and off the state judicial branch offices, whole bunch of people and on and off the state prison offices involved with racketeering with classes and teachers. I had classes with databases and uses of that the on and off campuses connected racketeering and identity racketeering, identity theft racketeering, sequence shift racketeering, uses of words like debate with that, uses of Comey and Mueller with the news treatments, where the uses of statutes pretending they have the right to do lies that are not really, because these are the original and state breaching racketeering method roles. All we needed for evolution is recorded right now. Science reveals that worse than they never had anything but torture and worse upon them. The people enter campuses of every nature of city, let alone urban cities, and specifically, distinctly and non-distinctly, the whole world needing to understand how how Hartford and Weathershire will set up as suburban and Hartford as suburban slash urban, and how that was forced with the pathology that is here across the world. Zoning laws, tactically denatured relationship to nature for self value. Doesn't cost a lot of money to lift water. And then you could bring it downwards for a long time and just keep spinning magnets around wires. Then you have more and more energy. Then you take away a whole bunch of needs for things, box things. See, but we already have people fitted in this roles because and through that first organized crime method that they juxtaposed all to roles as criminal ceaseless natures filtered through other motivations, natures, needs, interests to react and to hide lies different ways. Pretend you use lies offensively to forget to keep everyone uses of it as quality of factor means styles, so perpetually incapable of having a conversation about all the demonstrated uses of that by the breaching organized crime method using human fact treatment nature, using how we have worse than sabotaged education originally and still apart with the breaching organized crime method. That's why they didn't have let people have read. See, that needs to be countered, but you don't counter white. You counter the organized crime racketeering method that it was actually recorded. It's recorded also in the styles of fact treatment nature justification. Like, in other words, these are people too. Effectively, every hurt group, every way hurt, anyway, and any strength is going to be used against that identity with fact treatment nature styles, all for the same reasons, all hiding the same correlation from voice. These are criminal uses of Wethersfield town offices through time, fire department campuses, medical campuses, inter-campuses of each age, intercities through time. See a whole bunch of people, police forms, military, foreign and domestic. All their family members, foreign and domestic, private, racketeering with overt criminal enterprises, recorded how juxtaposed for this original still juxtaposed, all propagated originally self-valued, so it's still self-cultivated more and more ways, like the database racketeering with online platforms as they're being raised to it by on off campuses racketeering roles with our directors, every modern nations, with the directors of each branch. In other words, the leaders of each branch, all tied to them, all tied to their family members, because this exploits everyone from on and off the locations. This keeps everyone valuing roles with what the breaching organized crime method slash S kept and keeps self-value. Everyone needs to hide styles of lies by valuing roles handed means to hide, pretend to perceive things and to pretend things are recorded formally. So we have formal interbranch racketeering with their databases individually grouped and together. A whole bunch of ways don't even realize too. And then we have, but also the ways they do. But they don't. But they blamed it on other things, others themselves, not by accident. Having had directors and things like that tell them, forget the perfect world, things like that. Pretending that they're against online behavior because then you're not going to get a job down the road. Because they're recorded and involve racketeering with various natures of courts involved with racketeering, a whole bunch of nations. Those same courts pretend to be against racketeering with Russia are recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involve racketeering with a whole bunch of psychology diagnosis where they have the symptoms where those people are creating effects where people might or actually do tell on things actually true. And then they're taking what they try to tell and saying it wrong, so they can perpetually and more not be able to counter what is stacking natures of crime, not only natures of crimes against each age of fact treatment ages people, everyone, but it's stacking a whole bunch of names involved with collusion against everyone, not naturally, categorically, sequentially. Is maintaining as fact treatment nature styles originally instilled as a shared identity you can't help be. Yin yang does not part. And what has it connected like that is a complete nature that is a nature of volume that is only self-generating. More forever nature, which is invisible but still discernible. This is why we have the invisible but discernible value to us more than anything else. And all exceptions are recorded and invested. Only that realized. Pathology to speak else. So humanity never had free speech. And each group is its weapon. This method. That's recorded. All styles of debate you can't. These are criminal uses of identity of the ground. Then you need to pretend it's legal. So all branches together, for example, semi and complete, because they also have them for evidence racketeering for their witness testimony in the backgrounds, interbranch, pretending to perceive things, pretending to record things. That's involved with the roles, uses of Congress with with torture, words like torture, words slash value like torture, words like um, even prejudice, because they're the ones offensively using the different identities of everything to collusion with a racketeering method that is off campuses of each age, effectively already having been propagated, maintained in layers, motivated, blamed on other things, others themselves. Everyone just wants to pretend titles have integrity they never had of the law. They only have integrity in relationship to contrast as that type of identity. Fact means to the nature styles, not by accident. So we need to just open up this pantheism, which we need to have that as our evidences. What they pretend real fast, because that's the only thing that's going to be heard. Fake sides, sick alternative inclusion with the identity of Republican and democracy. as its values use racketeering. They're pretending what's complicated, what is not. Like that begot. It's the people we were all begot. That's why we have Native Americans. They would have. We should. That's what they're trying to say. You're made to pray. It makes no sense. Boxing and dance. Toppers dance. I know the way. So, in other words, alpha can't be separated. Yin yang can't be separated. Each one of these religions, where they're right to be separate, is about this organized crime method, which is forcing groups against each individual. If you want to be an individual group, even a religion, plus these religions are multi-front, demonstrated about the Trinities, also about the five pillars, also about the first sequence shift, about the organized crime, racketeering, with fact-cheating nature being described at the beginning of the Quran, about the sciences, how they share an identity being shared, being spoke about at the beginning of the Old Testament. They're leaving science out because they need to, and the religions they knew that the campuses, so the human fact-cheating nature of the followers were still criminally foreign influenced. They wouldn't be capable of countering that nature of criminal seriousness that was to the maintenance of racketeering through grouped nations, getting over on even kings, getting over on all types of leaderships as identities to getting over on them. This is getting over on identity. It doesn't, so they have everyone invested to styles autocrator. Not autocrator, autocrat. Oh, forget it. It's an autocrat. Oh, forget it's a totalitarian. Making it mean things that it doesn't. Making it obfuscated. Keeping it worse than obfuscated, exploited, criminally foreign influence, used as that for that screen breaching tool. That and how, where and how a whole bunch of nations shared, having given up, having only been capable to agreed to be an identity that is positive only in relationship to negative, only in relationship to contrast, not the Trinity's filling nature of volume per that, which is beyond us two ways, but it's still it's still connected to itself and within our means to an effective relationship to that reveals even species out of nowhere as positive value nature to all the rest of them too. Not in a lab, I don't think. I would think that would be, but no. In other words, this brings, like sings a song. In other words, we have more child offenders roles interbranch and uses of the grammar school I went to that are also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated how they are involved with connections between all the schools, missed by everyone, but demonstrated because of the phenomenon of racketeering, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated by many overt criminal enterprises, private, other nations, families, shared policing, uses of DACA, uses of databases in the past for a vertical and horizontal organized crime method, uses of shared policing of peacefully. It's never peace. We have forsaken here and there, distinctly and non-distinctly, sickly, effectively to keep how sickly, non-distinctly self-valued, breaching racketeering, way worse than war crimes. What brought us to World War One, and then everyone for to these uses of identities, fake sides, value treatments, peace, encounter, and collusion. Not realizing how, because everyone's styles of fact cheating nature, preventing free speech, preventing the identity of correlation nature, true sequence, preventing it from not having it, anyone who tries to demonstrate, protract all the proofs that there are offensive evidence reception and perception racketeering rolls intercities upon the people of Hartford, Connecticut, upon the people of New Britain, Connecticut, upon the people of Middletown, through time connected, upon the people of East Hartford, upon each of the people of Rocky Hill. See, this is originally still, you have to counter the grammar school, which is recorded, but we have people that are in what they call it, quote, intelligence community, and prosecutors. We have each of the branches already involved with the racketeering uses of their identities, involved with that and how and why. They were recorded even women judges involved with crimes with child sex offenders, especially if made up, because there are other ones too, especially if they're made up too, further involved with those actual racketeering acts and roles. Even because of the nature of the racketeering with courts and police forms, the methods they use, they even have those people making fake, their family members making fake child offender maps, for example. They have people pretending they're mad at me for different things because they pretended illusions and used them for and their family members for sequence racketeering, for racketeering with databases and with drugs in the past. The people interbranch all tied to them, intermilitary identity racketeering with other nations. We have foreign and domestic recorded. They attach Saudis to fake words to sequence racketeering uses, as the investigators of the Trade Center attack recorded involved with racketeering in other cases also, and all the racketeering uses of the and roles of the Department of Justice, the Pentagon originally, still criminally foreign influence, delusions raw. Now one has taught about sayings. I teach each things. Behold, I'm being extorted, everyone. I didn't mean to yell at you, Mr. Lieberman. Please help. Please have because the judges forge names, switch names. The state's attorneys forge names, switch names. They know they're also recorded and confessed involved with racketeering, where they attach you everyone to fake words, fake behavior. They hide their worst in entrapment roles, attaching little kids through time to fake locations, fake out, forging names, switching names, all kinds of racketeering with a whole bunch of doctors, forging names, switching names, racketeering, former director of the FBI down, other agencies and their family members involved real sick with the kids, involved criminal uses of Facebook, pretend things onto the databases with the overt criminal enterprises, with the private and retired and standing associated with a whole bunch of people on off Fox Connecticut News who use the right to act in things in relationship to and you racketeering roles where they're using it in sustained ways, where they're just stacking databases with fake recorded things and to keep them to keep their original and still criminal foreign influence, criminal uses of them, racketeering in cases, sequence shifts like post-dated documents inside the Ninth Circuit before leading up to the Trade Center attack. They show right before the Trade Center attack, they show the panel of judges post-dated documents to make them appear as if they'd been post-dated late. That was later proven that they'd been handed in time-stamped on time. That led to a 2006 case with former director of the FBI in Connecticut now, in the district court. Now, leading up to that, there were people with a pattern of racketeering and confessions regarding various natures of Connecticut courts and of Connecticut police, of the courts, and interbranch, even security people associated with those police forms and the racketeering, former directive guy down. All these prison cliques, their family members, like leaders, what title they have, they're in collusion with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, with acts, mail crimes, identity racketeering, falsified police reports, whole bunch of police from a whole bunch of different cities, racketeering acts with the same fake arrests, evolving from a narrative that started it off with a promise to appear handed to someone else outside my house. Also involved with racketeering with uses of the houses by a Dillon family, involved with a whole bunch of natures of on off campuses racketeering acts with child sex offenders cliques, also with drugs and with untimely deaths uses, with also other natures of racketeering with those identity of the ground locations, forging names and switching names, racketeering roles with the Dean Alford. I don't know if it was him or there's someone pretending to be him though. So in other words, and they're forging names and switching names, and they have a Joshua Julian evolved further with uses of the Facebook page of New Britain Superior Court and of the schools to hide their recorded, confessed, and demonstrated racketeering roles with police forms leading up on and off CCSU, on and off Trinity College, since the kids and the family members, even victims of the Trade Center, were victim predators. Predators not by themselves, but by narratives they don't even realize. Their uses of their databases, their uses of their relationships to the Trade Center. See, we have originally and still you can't value those trade agreements and what is manifest with them as uses of identity and defend ourselves at the same time. Not by accident. Here, there, they have they have that as a value with that torture method that was not just upon individuals, breaking people and sustaining them. So we have to show what this organized crime method. We switch the color, and you guys can, if you listen to me, I'll give all the money could go to heal those forsaken things, and that will show a whole bunch of fake motivations to offensively pretend to perceive things, pretend to record things. It will show racketeering upon easy to discern racketeering, especially upon New York City. Not by accident, will show everyone already having blamed all that's sustained by it on other things, others themselves, like predicate acts, which really color was used for, to keep everyone blaming other things, others themselves, for really what was causing the predicate acts. So that we had witch trials. See, I'll tell them. The Campus Martius now returns. Each B. This is humanity's voice. Why each individual nature is an individual nature of volume physics. Its value as nature. So in a demonstration of that, for example, a sex, an age, an area, a grouped nature of volume, simultaneously a species nature of volume. And that's a positive or negative relationship to this identity of value progression that we're not allowed free speech to speak for. And it has to do with the styles of fact treating nature by the types of people weaponized with fact treating nature style rules. No one has the right to kill one person. And each side was forced. This is real bad. Box sayings. All we need is record for instant evolution. I can't get a response because they're using wire crime methods and database crime methods, mail crime methods, and criminal uses of methods using the identities defending themselves, pretended legitimate, already racketeering with cases through time, various natures of courts, uses of their on off the state judicial branch offices pretended perceived things offensively, sequence shifting too, racketeering here. Offensive pretended recorded things roles, racketeering on off the state judicial branch office, on off the Oliveri family at the end of that street there, on off the Weathersfield police, and Weathersfield Pizza, also involved with a whole bunch of racketeering with Weathersfield Police and with CCSU, leading up to and then in the Trade Center attack roles already invested. And sequence shift racketeering, I never knew she existed, except other people repeated her name, so I remember it like a Mark Violet. And see, these are people involved with the policing of the stores that are maintained criminally foreign influence roles with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, and where and how these are completely sequence racketeering nature roles. Database stacking, vertical and horizontal, exploitation of racketeering with the youngest kids because they already had this. All identities of the law and private tied to them already criminally foreign influence fact treatment nature. Needed to pretend other, needed to pretend to be about positive, can't have positive's actual course. The logic of as criminal and racist nature, or you're hurt and your identity stole, and worse. So we must all rehearse. We have this Leahy family also faked conversations with me with the New Britain Superior Court. A whole bunch of people through time racketeering with them. A whole bunch of crime methods, pretending not to realize, like having people talk in the background. Uses of there's also uses recorded uses of victims advocates to further what really is tied to all the shootings and to the child offenders. There are roles with child offenders because we have interbranch, all that's tied to a whole bunch of names tied to the Britain Superior Court. Everyone speaks through everyone criminally. Interbranch, too. Criminal uses of their databases, fake recorded things, uses of that. That's why they need to hide their life progressions by valuing roles with past force sustained by them and further recorded child sex offenders involved with New Britain Superior Court, involved with drug crimes, uses of that have nothing to do with sex, as the women judges reveal, uses of the Confederate flag for the racketeering with a whole bunch of undercover recorded involved with racketeering with actual overt criminal enterprises in collusion recorded categorically, sequentially, and with the interbranch inside, outside of courts racketeering, proven a sequence shift. Now, so that's tied to more predicate acts with the investigators of the Trade Center attack too, and that's tied to as a predicate as a sequence shift and a whole bunch of roles with other natures of wrongdoing. And with like there's the FBI told one of the witnesses that was used. They're from off. They will swoop on your head. Well, if they mess with the hair on your head. So those FBI and CIA families are recorded and confessed and demonstrated involved with racketeering on and off of CCSU and on and off their roles with intercities campuses. And they use a Manos, a Steve Manos with that, with the Trade Center attack context, involved with racketeering with the officer Magnanos, also in a whole bunch of police firms with East Hartford and with Glastonbury, involved with racketeering with the databases, intercampuses of each age on and off them, stacking vertical and horizontal racketeering used for when people go into cases. They're maintaining effectively maintain criminally foreign influence outcomes, delusions raw outcomes, victim predator outcomes in cases originally and still. The same way they were doing it originally, motivating them to be such, is recorded. But when I have free speech, WFSB stole my identity offensively to fake words and as lies that stacked more and stacks more and more people needing to hide their life aggressions from the past too, with vertical and horizontal database racketeering, uses of time where everyone's going to just where everyone has this sustained on them, but they need to go for positive. Everyone's saying, forget the perfect world, not by accident. Hate is not the problem. What is pretending to be against hate? That's preventing counters to database racketeering and to uses of that is the problem. So many people tied to the extended relatives of a Ray Kalo are involved with a Phil Kalo, and with them involved with attaching me to fake locations and racketeering with judges retired and standing, various natures of courts and their police and their relatives. Whole bunch of people with a Delafair family. Whole bunch of people I don't even know the names of, mixed with the people I barely know the names of. Involved racketeering all natures of enter every nature of campus, fire training them. They have IT departments involved with racketeering. I'm not even a lawyer. They have the types of law still criminally foreign influence. You can't defend that and what's exploiting how the identity, the sciences share this identity. That is why the predicate is valued to English. While the predicate act is valued to the law. Not one foresaw. So in other words, we have means to just admit. Then we have means to afford. In other words, all these costs, things like that. With people sending everything they need, trees, people will ship it for free. We'll, in other words, we need to counter the tactical nature relationship to nature, not just because it forsakes Native American rights, leaves a whole bunch of people forsaken in and as a tactically nature relationship to nature, self-value. So all formal roles with that are blaming the real cause of other of it, of all the negative value nature progressions, accidents, all the things other. Then they have to defend that. So they're valuing, oh, well, this is what evident we think it's this problem. Those are facilitated roles with the people that are most formally responsible for the mass shootings, for most formally responsible for uses of the word education as criminal insidious nature and or not voice vaccines. So we have companies that are pretending to be against things with campuses from off campuses maintain criminally foreign influence offensively pretending to be against what people might say or said in the past on Facebook because we have the training of police forms the training of the branches having used that to pretend that they didn't realize they were racketeering roles when they were pretending people were prejudiced or something like that. That's what they pretend. When they had witch trials, real or made up, that's people pretending things. You know, they're pretending that the science has free speech. That's why we have so many problems. Recorded self-value by a different nature, a sick predator. Also, therefore, recorded how motivated, needing to pretend they're, as their they're how they're victims, but they're victim predators, needing to pretend I'm this type of person, this type of person, I'm this group, that's it. They keep those group used as with fact sheet nature racketeering uses of it. They keep the beginning of the Old Testament, beginning of the Quran. I never read the beginning of the Torah, but I'm sure that everyone has the beginning of the Quran of the Old Testament inclusion with and as with ISIS. The Quran warns about people that are going to believe and think and say they're Muslims always, but they are not. All you have to be to be a Muslim is not even about debatable about the organized crime that was being described about the forced grouped sick, forced grouped to counter to being sick, and that forced to be exploited, beginning of the crime. by this organized crime conversation. And then it says, and then it says, if you don't agree with anything um, in the mosque, then you don't pray in it, and or you communicate about the we want free speech, and that's maintained value. So they're going to value the states and areas are going to force offensively to only let experts on the Quran or on the Bible are going to be people that are going to be taking it out of sequence and self-valuing their treatments of it afterwards. Never letting free speech for that. So now they're going to be sensibilities that are preventing their fact treatments concerned with that, with sequence true, never letting that be the subject. So CNN is recorded with Mueller and Comey involved with sequence shift racketeering further in Connecticut databases, interbranch, in cases leading up to cases, criminal uses of lawyers, criminal uses of pretended vetting and things like that, offensive pretending to perceive things, really perceiving things with physical delusions, criminal foreign influence, each of the sciences, originally still. Kippis Marcius calls you home, religion Phil. It only fills. The yin yang only fills. And this is putting Alpha apart from this to teach about the language is sharing identity too. The language is individually grouped and together. And it's in demonstration of this nature of volume is three semi-natures of volume that are only filling too. And that's in demonstration of still discernible, even scientific. But I put it there, people won't, or put it in a form. Not letting you're not letting me counter what's sustained on the kids through the kids. They already invested, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated they have prosecutors with their kids involved with racketeering. Not legal, but they're pretending they're using statutes where they, because they're going to be with undercover, catch a predator guy. That catch a predator guy is involved with racketeering branches as predators against each agent fact nature, valuing the perfect world, forsaken, not enough money. That you put the kids in this program now. Or you keep them roles with its intercampuses, fake education integrity, evil education is all we have to counter, and everything else reveals. It sees it. So we have evil, fake education, criminally foreign influence uses of databases recorded tied to the child offender problems, also medical offenders. See, we have various natures of courts that are pretending they don't realize that there is criminality with the doctors tied to them, and there are crimes with overt criminal enterprises and with really sick people interbranch. And then you can't tell it because their uses of, for example, the juxtaposed roles of undercover with racketeering. Now these are with former director of the FBI down, people on off Fox Connecticut News, people with CCSU tied to them, and on downtown Hartford involved with sequence racketeering, identity thefts, then acting, pretending just undercover acting, using that to cover life aggressions, to keep illusions perceived like magic tricks shown to other natives. That's how they keep the branches knave. Because this is exploiting the sophistication here, because it was sophistication here first. Whole bunch of people with I don't know, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved racketeering uses of St. Anthony's Church that is involved with the inter churches, even inter-religious Jewish Community Center, further involved with the child offenders on off the campuses. And these are roles on off of it. These are roles with criminal uses of database for the distance and relationships where you're going to walk, who is aware of what, because they're maintaining that used as tools to keep their roles with uses of each age of fact, keeping nature worse than forsaken, correlation nature's value, which is identities course boxing. So we have all the Connecticut boxing gyms, for example, distinctly and non-distinctly like other industries, recorded how maintained, used by what's going to keep the wrong outcomes in cases and keep them needed or keep them not let had, all for the same agenda and how that's kept needed. So we have originally and still no one lets demonstrated about how Germany and America was in collusion with a whole bunch of nations that were operating us remotely because there was already entrenched means to it. That's what they're still doing that. Torture, shock and awe, coalition. Positions with wealth, natures of extortion tied to that were a whole bunch of nations shared. Sick, psychology especially, a whole bunch of racketeering invested tricks, like magic tricks, sub roles of racketeering, uses of it. Right, thank you. And more important than world peace is a nature of peace where people can fight about quality of fact, cheap nature. That was never one. Boxing is fun, one way alone. Boxing was revealed to counter this uses of state scenarios criminally foreign influenced, uses of its needs to keep each age of correlation nature insidious, criminal insidious nature roles, or in styles of logic of nature or hurt. And worse, in all, fake branches fall, CT. I'll just admit, I don't know why guys just don't admit. If then you guys admitted that, you admit means to put pantheism down. I'll gather round. I'll donate it in his games. Then now we have a means beyond, not only beyond taxing means to counter all the impositions upon people forsaken. We just draw that and we make it, this is the gaming system. Because then so I'm going to make my gaming system. What am I? I'm going to give them the gaming system. Is they're going to build their own industry. And I'm going to give them the news too, because this is the news. This is science. I'm telling science with sequence true. CNN is recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with racketeering that I understand because WFSB, Fox Connecticut News, WTNH, the recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with racketeering with various natures of agencies, their family members, and racketeering intercampuses, intercities through time. Identity theft racketeering with the people associated with the mail racketeering, all different ways. People counters to such. People with counters to prison corruption and like internal supposed to be like those people recorded in collusion with child sex offenders with it before they were in their prisons and things. They were already involved with racketeering using against people with the people that forced that not told on as roles with it. Those are also people in locations used criminally with the transition from Alca to Rica with the Racketeering Influence and Corrupt Organization Act, racketeering against uses of Connecticut courts in collusion with the ones that used the Ninth Circuit and demonstrably used and use worse than criminally incompetent human fact treatment nature of all formal levels regarding each modern nation's geographical impositions, logistical impositions actual. Is what we're going to use pantheism for. Because that's all we need: free speech, sequence true. The vertical and horizontal database racketeering demonstrated what it was is used for. Identity.